So I'm here today to talk a little bit about software projects and implementing software. We are a payroll software back office company. Most of you know us, I think, but for those of you that don't, we've been around since about 1997, and we've implemented probably around about 1,000 software projects in that time for umbrella companies, recruitment agencies. So we've got a lot of experience in actually implementing software. It's probably something that a lot of you will need to do. I know we've got quite a lot of our customers here, but you may want to perhaps implement a new module to some existing software. You may be looking to replace your back office software. You may be looking to put a CRM in, an accountancy package, anything like that. And the tips that we'll give you today, it's only a handful of tips. We're giving you 7 tips just to show you how you can launch a software project and get it going through successfully. So, Chris. So the first thing to do really is to pick the right people. So quite often when we launch a software project with a customer, we very often are told, okay, liaise with the IT team, they'll be the one dealing with everything to do with software. And that's often the wrong call really. It sounds logical that the IT team should be involved in software projects, and they will be obviously for the actual installation or setting up cloud servers or anything like that. But really it needs to be somebody who understands the payroll process. So for example, it might be somebody that's involved in the team. Now, we do see with some of the very successful projects that we deal with that a company will appoint a project manager who's just responsible for seeing the project right through. But it's really critical that somebody that's actually going to be using that piece of software is involved from day one, because they will have a say then in how it's actually going to be used. So the IT team may not know how it's going to be used. Quite often what happens with us is we might get through to the final stage of training, and that's when the people that are actually using the software get involved, and they say, no, we don't do it like that. And it would have been really helpful if at the very start those people would be involved. So if you're implementing an accountancy package, make sure your finance teams are involved. If you're implementing a new piece of payroll software, get somebody from payroll on that project team from day one. So Chris. The next thing then is to set a realistic time frame. So what happens with our company is very often in March, everybody comes to us and says, we need to put a new piece of software in and we want it in by April the 1st. So most times we can accommodate that, but when you've set yourself that kind of hard deadline, it makes a software project so much harder. And nowadays, with any piece of software, payroll, accountancy, CRM, usually what you can do is you can migrate data from one system to another, and you can run in parallel. So it doesn't always have to be at that hard deadline. It may be that you're removing another piece of software, but if you're planning to do that and replace a piece of software, always give yourself plenty of time and set a realistic timescale. Because any kind of rush, any kind of hard deadline can always cause problems then later on in the project. It means that you rush the last bit of it and you don't test things properly. So you've got to leave yourself some room for some unforeseen elements. Chris? Next thing then is the project plan. So understanding a project plan. Now what we do, our company, and I'm not sure if every software company does this, but what we will always do is we will provide all of our customers with a project plan, whether that's for a full software implementation or just for a new bit of module that we're implementing for someone. We'll give you a plan as to what's going to happen. That plan will contain everybody that's involved in the project, the key timelines, milestones, that sort of thing, the full, and importantly, the full scope of the project. So that project plan will have absolutely chapter and verse what that piece of software or what that module is going to do for you. So it's absolutely critical that that project plan is gone through at your end with a fine-tooth comb, because what can happen at our end is we will send the customer a project plan. One of our project managers will draw it up, they'll send it across to them, and we just get it signed and sent back. And we know then straight away that they haven't read it, they haven't gone through it. So what we will do is we will arrange a call to actually go through it and make sure, because what is in that project plan is what's actually going to be delivered. If you get to the end of the software project and you say, well, I thought it was going to do this, that's the time to say it is in the project plan. We want it to do this, this, and this. So getting a plan in place is probably one of the most important steps of any software project. Chris? Staying focused. Now, it sounds pretty obvious, but we see it quite a lot that customers will start a project and they'll then be pulled off onto something else. So they may be trying to launch perhaps 2 or 3 projects at once. They might be putting a piece of payroll software in and an accountancy package, and they're trying to jump from one to the other. And again, that goes back to picking the right people that can focus on it. But it's really important that there's going to be a lot of back and forth information. So make sure that you stay focused on that project. Quite often, the projects that we see actually stop, don't tend to be for any sort of, major problem. It's just because the company has shifted direction and gone on to something else and then has to come back to it later. And that just causes all sorts of problems because you've got to go right back to the beginning. It causes additional costs. You've got to replan the project. So if you can, any software project, try and choose the people that will be able to focus on that project all the way through it. Chris? Testing. Really, really important step is testing, and one that most of our customers tend to underestimate really with software. What happens is you've got that project plan that tells you what the software is going to do. When it's been delivered, you've got to test it, and you've got to put the time in to make sure that you've tested everything that you're going to be using it for in real life and you're 100% happy with it. So the more time that you can spend testing, the more successful the project is likely to be. So the most common cause for issues after a project has gone live is because something wasn't checked before you went live with a piece of software. It sounds, simple, but you've really got to put the time in and spend time going through all of that stuff. So getting somebody, again, that's got a good eye for detail is quite a good one for that, where they will actually go through everything chapter and verse, test it, make sure it works, and if it doesn't work, come back, get it sorted before you go live. Chris? So we've given you a simple checklist there. In your bags, you'll all have a copy of this, which is our little success plan, which is basically this. So first thing you need to do is you need to agree and fully understand the scope of the project. So if in doubt, always ask those nitty-gritty questions at the start of the project. Get that plan. So appoint a dedicated project manager. That's really a good one. A lot of companies will go externally, bring a project manager in from external, or choose somebody in the organisation that's good at managing a project. Don't necessarily rely on your IT team. They may have project management experience, but again, they may not be experienced with what the actual project is trying to achieve, which is step 3, ensuring your project manager has got payroll knowledge if you're implementing a piece of payroll software, or knowledge of the software that you're implementing. Choosing a realistic timescale, so put in some time for delays. Don't try and rush yourself. Software should always be put in at a nice pace. Don't give yourself that hard deadline that you've got to meet unless you've got a specific reason for it, like a software provider has gone bust or something like that. But otherwise, give yourself plenty of time and don't rush it. Stay focused on the project. Make sure it's given the attention that it needs. Be thorough with your testing. Don't go live with your piece of software until you are confident everything is ready. And again, that is about choosing the people with the eye for detail. Some of us tend to be sort of more bigger picture. Yeah, I'm sure it'll work, but get that person that will actually go through and test everything. And the project isn't over when you think it is. Going live will always generate some new questions. So again, choose a software partner that's got a good support team, people that you can actually talk to and have the questions. Chris?